I love you guys so much for continuing to support me and the mission here, which is to educate people on building sales teams and educate people on business in general and what it's like and how to scale theirs. All right, guys, y'all may have noticed that video was one of the first videos I used on building great sales teams for this podcast. And it was created by a good friend of mine that through our company Podcast Partners, they've created a lot of intros for our different clients at Podcast Partners. But I wanted to play that as a sort of nostalgia because this will be the last Building Great Sales Teams episode. And does not mean the end for me in hosting a podcast. It just means the end of this podcast, because one of the things I've decided as I get further and further into consulting and now the new venture that I'm going to tell you guys about, at this point, I really have been doing more consulting on general business than just building great sales teams. And so as great and strong as the BGST brand is for me and my consulting career, I do want to elevate to be a general business consultant. And so in order to do that, I feel like I need to elevate basically my experience in the sense I want to start a home service company from scratch. Now, if you've been listening to the last maybe 10 or so episodes, you know that I transitioned from a long-term consulting engagement with Sammy to a W-2 position. And I don't think I've announced it on this podcast yet, but I have ended that W-2 position only like 100 days in, or no, like 70 days in, for a few reasons. You know, the company itself didn't want to continue the agreement because they want to be more tech forward. Everything that I was building for them was relationship based. You guys know my referral partner strategy, and that's mainly what we were leaning on to build out the partner division. And unfortunately, their new investors as well as the executive team just didn't see eye to eye on it anymore. And if I'm being honest, I was getting frustrated too, and wanted more resources and more people to be able to execute the partner program. And for obvious reasons, they weren't willing to do that. I think it was a great experience for me in really understanding that I shouldn't ever be an employee, that I had done good for 18 years not to be one anymore. But it's one of those things. It's not, I need to learn it again. It's more like, can't teach an old dog new tricks. I didn't have full autonomy. I wasn't able to move the way I wanted to. And I found myself underperforming. That's the bottom line, and it made sense. It's been a long time since I haven't lived and died by my own decisions, and so for me, it was a weight off of my shoulders, and immediately I knew what I wanted to do. I have consulted for probably 10 plus home service companies in the last year or so. I've been getting deep into home services. I've been coaching home service companies, consulting, training for them, all kinds of stuff. And I had an itch to start a home service company. So if you follow me on social media, roughly a month ago, I want to say, we're 30 days or so in now, I announced that I was going to launch a home service company called Texas Shine Co. We're going to be a power washing and lighting company. I'm going to mainly focus on residential initially. And then probably about 6 months in, I will start diversifying to commercial. This is very much a public documentation of what it takes to start a home service company. But I'm going to be coming from the sales, marketing, and scale expertise versus the trades expertise, right? And so some of the things that I'm doing right now that I'll fill you guys in on, education's a big one. I'm going through How to Wash 2 course by Mike Vidan, and it's incredibly deep, incredibly detailed and meticulous. And I'm going through the entire course. So I'm downloading all that right now. The course comes with SOPs. So I'm reformatting those SOPs for my company. One of the biggest probably surprises to a lot of people is that I'm going to be doing the labor initially. A lot of the motivation behind launching this company was to build a legacy business that my sons and daughter could operate in and eventually take over. Now, should they choose to do so, I'm not going to be one of those dads that forces it on them. My daughter is either going to be a lawyer or teacher. My middle son is definitely going to be an entrepreneur, but he's probably going to want to do his own thing at some point. And then my youngest son is probably going to be a public servant or in the military. That's kind of what they're showing right now, but they will know they always have the family business to come back to. And so the plan for this is to work in the business for about 6 months, launch a second rig, and then start hiring people to run the rigs. And so when I say rig, a rig is either a trailer or a skid that goes in the back of a truck, or it can be an enclosed trailer, it can be an open trailer. I'm starting with the open trailer rig that is going to have commercial washing capabilities so that when I do decide to transition to commercial, it will be me doing the commercial work. And then I will purchase another rig for a residential person, which I'll have to also purchase a truck too as well. Because right now my rig is going to be pulled by a 21 Expedition. And so the plan is to double up the 2 rigs and to do $350,000 the first year. Now here's the fun part. And here's why I'm documenting it so heavily. Because I'm coming from the experience that I have in sales, operation, and marketing, and not from the trade side of the business, there's a lot of people that doubt my ability to do this. Now, let's point out the obvious. This is power washing, right? Soft washing, pressure washing, the use of chemicals for organic growth on homes, basically making things look new. This is not a true trades business, right? I didn't have to become an apprentice and go through 2 years of apprenticeship or go through all these hours to get my electrical license. Like it's none of that. It's not HVAC. It's not construction, contracting, any of that. It's a low barrier of entry business. So that's the first obvious right there. But when you look at the business, it's a lot of side hustles. It's a lot of solo operators. It's a lot of scarcity mindset people in this business. That's why I'm incredibly confident going into it. I'm incredibly confident that I will hit that 350 my first year. And here's the good news. I still have my consulting clients. I still have my consulting business. I still have my podcast partners business. And so while I will spend at least 40 hours a week in Texas Shine Co., I will have another 10 to 15 in my other 2 businesses as well. And so I will have a buffer there, which will be nice. But at the same time, I need to replace roughly $350,000 a year $250,000 a year in income. And so if I do 350 and net 175, 200 around there, then I'm going to be in great shape. Oh, that's right. I'm going to be the labor too. So I should be able to easily net 225 to 250 on 350, right? So let's break down the numbers real quick, because that's a lot of what I'm going to be doing moving forward for you with the new podcast. So yes, I am launching another podcast, and it's going to be called TX Biz Dad. So Texas Biz Dad is going to be the podcast. If you guys know me and you follow me, all my social media handles are TX Biz Dad. Where did that come from? Well, it originally was on Instagram as TX Barbecue Dad, BBQ Dad, TX BBQ DAD. And that was during COVID when I was barbecuing heavily. And I wanted an Instagram for it, and I got a lot of action on it. People enjoyed seeing the posts and everything. I was cooking 2-3 times a week. It's a lot of fun. And then when I got heavy into building my brand on social media, I changed it to Texas Biz Dad. And so it just makes sense for me to label the podcast this way. This will be the last BGST episode. And then over the next couple of weeks or so, I'm going to start putting together the marketing, the branding, I'll probably bank a few episodes of TX Biz Dad, and then I will launch that podcast likewise. And so a big part of that podcast is going to be the first 100 days in a power washing business, but I will also bring on guests. My guests are going to be mainly around the home service industry, but I will expand outside of that where appropriate. I'm going to have coaches, consultants, experts in their own right, and I'm going to grow the business that way. Now, the reason I'm excited about this is because it is universal to business owners everywhere. Versus building great sales teams had a specific niche that it went after, which was people that needed help building their sales teams, or that were part of sales teams, or that were managers. Leaders on sales teams is what it was really for. And so I'm going to be able to expand my audience and expand the brand a little bit and go full into Texas Biz Dad. What does that mean for my consulting business? It means I'll be able to consult on operations. I'll be able to consult on sales. There's two things I know really well. And as I build out this business, I will be able to consult on home service businesses. And this is basically hey, a lot of people question your ability. It's easy to question someone's ability as a coach or a consultant, right? Because they're no longer doing the business in the business, right? And there's plenty of consultants out there that do have successful or have exited and stuff like that. But guys like me that have, 15 years of experience in small business that exited a business not so fiscally well, I should say, are put under the microscope a lot, right? And so I'm basically doing this as an FU to everybody that thinks that guys like me aren't able to do this. And so I'm starting like most guys start with is very little knowledge. I actually am starting with some cash because I cashed out a real estate investment to do this. So the first investment that I am making is going to be in a $23,000 pressure washing and power washing rig. And so I'm making this very public. I'm letting people know that I'm calling my shot. $350K in the first year from May 1st to May 1st. Actually, I'm gonna have to, I think it's like May 4th to May 4th, right? 2026, I will have gross 350K in the business and I'll have the books to show it. And that's what I'm after in my first year. There is some ego in this. There is some chip on my shoulder a little bit, and look, nobody specific that has said anything. It's more just the hate I see online for coaches and consultants, and it's more for coaches than consultants, but it's a lot of people saying if they're not doing the thing that you're doing right now, then they can't coach on it. Or if they don't have experience in the specific thing you're trying to do, then they can't coach on it. Look, business is business, guys. It's a formula for success. That formula is custom to every business. But once I'm in it and I see it, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to make an impact in that business almost immediately. Now, the bigger the business gets, I will bow out. I will say, hey, you need somebody that has done this level of business before, right? I'm a 0 to 10 million guy. I know who I am. I can speak directly to 0 to 10 million. I have either consulted for or had my own business do at least that much, right? Also understand that, if we put some math on this in terms of gross profit, I have had a roofer's version of 5 million in gross profit. So what does it take to get a roofer to 5 million in gross profit? Usually it takes 20 to 25 million in gross revenue, right? Because they're subbing everything out, right? Basically, if you're in construction, you can multiply what I've done in the past by 3 to 5, and then we're running the same weight of business. I don't know how else to say it, right? Because everything that I did was on commission only. So if you think about it, like if all you did was earn a commission, then you had to pay your salespeople. That was my business model, And so this idea that the higher the gross revenue, the more the knowledge, experience, all that good stuff, that's just not true because, I could sell G4s for a living and have more revenue selling one plane and call myself an expert because I have a 7-figure business. It makes no sense. Obviously, you guys are hearing that I have a bone to pick. You're hearing more ego than you normally hear. You're hearing more resentment than you normally hear. Part of that is by design. When I look at Argenza and the way that I launched that company out of resentment. Resentment for my old boss, resentment for my parents, all that trauma, father wounds, mother wounds, all that good stuff. I launched that company as a big FU to everybody that ever doubted me. And it worked. I did 35 million over 13 years, which is nothing to shake a stick at. It's not amazing either. Seeing some of my clients and the way they're moving now, there's so much I could have done better, right? But I know where I need to go right now. I need to go to kind of a dark place, at least on the business side of things, not with my family, obviously, but I need to go to a dark place and I need to bring that dog back out because the dog's been sitting in the shade for a couple of years, enjoying life, enjoying full autonomy and working, 20 to 30 hours a week and still making great money. But now if I truly want to build a legacy business, I have to show my kids from beginning to success and everything in between, the wins, the losses, the mental fight that you have to go through in operating a business. I know this is not going to be easy, but I also know I am built for this shit. I also know I am built for this shit, and I want my kids to see it. I think it's going to be one of the greatest lessons they ever learn, if they give a damn to learn it, right? I'm not here trying to condition my kids to be entrepreneurs or take on legacy businesses. I want them to see what they didn't see when they were toddlers, of their dad going through the struggles of scaling a business, of, the times that me and my wife had to pay everybody but ourselves, the times that, I had to take it on the chin and take the high road to keep the machine going, and if I knew what I knew now, how I would have operated so much better. So that's why I want to do it again. I want my own thing again, and I want my kids to have the ability to be able to take it on as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any one of those tactical building great sales teams episodes that you're so used to, but I think this is good news for everybody listening. I think it's good news for me and my family, because I get to go on there and just talk about being a business owner. It opens it up wide. I get it. The riches are in the niches, but I feel like my brand is strong enough to handle a general business episode, and what I'm about is strong enough. And if it's not, if I get 20 downloads a week, who cares? I mean, so much of our best realizations are coming from talking out loud, from thinking out loud, from hearing your own words in your own voice and being able to self-evaluate, So if everybody could have a podcast, I would recommend doing so, because a lot of times you'll realize things as you think through them. If you don't have some scripted podcast or some bullet pointed questions that you go through, whatever. If you truly live in the moment on your podcast and let curiosity fly, I think we learn so much in just conversation. That's what I love about this podcast. And that's why I bring guests on. I haven't lately, but I will for this. That's why I bring guests on to do it. And look, the last 6 months, last 7 months has been a lot of change. It really has. I went from the height of my consulting business to spending a lot of time consulting for Check Sammy, to being an employee at Check Sammy, still consulting, still running my podcast partner business, to now I'm going to launch Texas Shine. I get it. I heard it from family over Easter. What are you doing now? And it's like, I don't know what I got to do to instill confidence, because I've gone from my direct sales, I worked for 13 years, to consulting for 2 years. And now I want to launch a home service company. And there should be no doubt in their minds and your minds and in my mind that I'm going to be successful with this. All I have to do is not quit. And I've told you guys this so many times. Businesses don't fail because the business fails. Businesses fail because the owners quit. When you say a business failed, you're not really speaking the truth. The business didn't fail, the owner quit. Most of the time, that's what it is. Because even if it's under a different name, different tax ID, or different concept, there's always a pivot to be made. There's always an adjustment that can keep things rolling. I believe that. I think humans are incredibly, incredibly resilient. And the only time that we really fail is when that's just the honest, philosophical, practical, factual argument behind businesses failing. There's no piece of paper. There's no legal. Well, yeah, you can't do legal things, right? That's not really a business. That's just crime. There's nothing that can stop you from continuing your business. At the end of the day, nobody can stop you from putting food on the table, with respect to, again, laws and societal norms and all that good stuff. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. I'm excited about doing this along with the podcast. And I hope you guys will join me. And in the show notes, we will definitely get you some not credentials, but links and everything. So when I do launch the podcast, you guys are the first to know it. I think we'll do a simple web form where you guys can enroll in the podcast newsletter and make sure that you're able to get that. But as always, and for the last time, not the last time, let's get building, but the last episode of BGST, my name is Doug Mitchell. And if you enjoyed this episode, honestly, if you enjoyed any of the 320 before, please share those episodes. This podcast will still be live. This podcast will still be a resource for people. With 320 episodes, there's nothing that you can't find about building and scaling sales teams. You will find it on this podcast. And I would argue that you would find most business problems on this podcast and how to overcome them. So definitely share it, definitely like it, definitely review it so we can keep it engaged in the podcast community and in listeners. And I appreciate you guys. It's been an amazing journey. And look, if I did look every week and I didn't see the downloads that you guys are listening to it, I didn't get the comments, I didn't get the messages, I didn't get the stories about the podcast and how it impacted different businesses and stuff like that, it would be very hard to keep going. So I love you guys so much for continuing to support me and the mission here, which is to educate people on building sales teams and educate people on business in general and what it's like and how to scale theirs. This will always be here for you as long as Apple allows it, doesn't archive it, or doesn't take it off. It will always be here for you to revert back to. And if it's not, I've got every episode recorded, edited, all that good stuff. If you guys ever need anything from me, just let me know. If not, I will see you on my new podcast, TX Biz Dad.